This is the SeoulPodcat. Let's chatty. I'm King Sejong, reminding you that in Korea, pizza toppings and ice cream flavors use similar ingredients. And here are your hosts, Emma Kalka and Joe McPherson.
Hey, welcome to the Soul Podcast. This is Joe.
And I'm Emma. What was that?
That's me. I get tired of saying the same thing every time. And so I just screw around.
Try to change it up a little bit.
Yeah. All right, we're coming live. We're live on YouTube right now at Zen Kimchi. I think I'm going to create a separate channel for Soul Podcast.
Yeah, because we've got a decent amount of videos going out now.
Yeah, we got an audience.
I keep sharing last. 2 people. Oh, 3 people are watching. So somebody besides the 2 of us. There's one other person besides me and you.
I haven't even checked who's watching.
I thought that's what you were talking about. There's 2 of us. And I'm like, what? Oh, no, there's 3. There's 3.
Oh, I wasn't even checking that. Okay, there we go. All right. Mm-hmm.
But 2 of those 3 people are me and you. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
The listener.
Hello, listener.
Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about a new law that's big in Korea. It's almost guaranteed that's going to pass, but it's very controversial. Mm-hmm. It deals with fake news. But before that,
Jason. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Jason. Oh, wow, Jason. Hey, we need to bring Jason on. I was on his show. We should bring him on.
You're just doing all like the podcast swaps. We'll just jump around to everybody's.
It's just one little circle jerk. We just do the whole thing.
We're gonna talk about the fake news law,
the revisions to the media arbitration law is the easy way to call it. It's got an official name. It's just a little bit longer.
Of course it does. Yeah. Before then, drink of the week. What are we drinking?
Oh, I'm just drinking my usual white wine. My long little dog.
Oh, long little dog. Aww.
It's cute. That's why I drink it.
I'm still doing my playground pale ale thingy. But I have mukbang today.
Oh, you do?
I do.
I ate earlier.
Well, I did too.
Stuff.
No, I just got some snacks I wanted to share. I'm going to try to do this every time. It's like stuff I find at the convenience stores. This is what I've been wanting to try. This is from Downtowner. I guess it's reversed on the thing. These are...
Oh, I can read it straight, yeah.
Spicy Chipotle chips. Now, Downtowner is a pretty good hamburger place. If you've never been, they have a few locations around Seoul. The one I usually go to.
I order from them on
Anguk Station. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I order from them all the time. When I'm in a mood for a hamburger, I order from Downtowner.
I don't know why it says spicy Chipotle. I'm trying to figure out what is this picture of. What is this right here? I'm trying to figure out what that is. Something with mayonnaise on it. It's kind of blurry.
I can't really see.
All right, something with looks like something with mayonnaise on it, and I'm like, I don't know what that has to do with Chipotle. So I'm gonna open that.
A taco.
Downtowner Ingi menu, popular menu. Chipotle fries. Okay. Oh, that's talking about the fries. Oh, that's Chipotle fries, I guess.
Oh, Chipotle fries.
I don't like the fries. They do crinkle cut fries. I'm not a big fan of crinkle cuts.
I like crinkle cut fries. I like their fries. They do this. Yeah, they do like this guacamole spicy fry.
The guacamole ones are really good. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna show this. This is.
I guess they have a chipotle fry.
It's a ridged chip, ridged for my pleasure. Yeah, it's smoky. A slight bit.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Is
not
it
getting the
spicy?
spice. I'm not getting the spice yet, but anytime I've never had a seriously spicy chip. No matter how much they said, I never have a really spicy chip. Kind of reminds me, do you remember Ruffles Cajun chips? Came out in 1985. Oh my God, I'm old.
I'm not sure if I remember those.
Vaguely reminds me of those. It's like a barbecue. This is like a barbecue chip. It's a little sweet, but it's not traditional. It's not barbecue sauce flavor. It's just a really smoky flavor. There's a little bit of a tingle heat now.
I have to try them out.
This is
I love
a good
barbecue
side dish.
chips.
This is a good side dish for a sandwich. This is really good. All right, let me cleanse the palate because I got a bonus. I would like to credit my oldest friend in Korea, longtime listener of the show, Brant. Brant told me about this, and I was hunting, and I found it. Look what I found.
What is that? Like
is
barbecue?
Gopchang hot chips. These are grilled intestine flavored chips. Wow. Yes.
I bet they're good. I like gopchang.
I love gopchang. And this looks like gopchang. It's gopchang good. It's spicy gopchang. I'm so happy because I introduced my Korean wife, to gopchang. And she never had it before. Really? She loves it. It's now a treat, but it's really like a treat. We only do like once a year or so. And then we didn't go when she got pregnant and then she had the baby. We didn't go at all because gopchang places tend to not have kids food and kids don't eat gopchang.
Yeah, I could see that.
2 or 3 years ago, we finally went out to a gopchang place. They had a Ganan Jim. They had the egg souffle for my daughter. She wouldn't even try the gopchang. It was delicious. But then suddenly, my daughter Jian saw some YouTube videos about gopchang bokum, the spicy stir fried gopchang, and then she wanted to try it. And we have this new place right outside our apartment. It's the closest. It's even closer than the convenience store. And it's this guy just in a window, and he's just making gopchang and sundae all the time. We went together and we bought it, and she tried it, and she actually liked it. So now I have a gopchang convert. So I came home and I got 3 of these. So I showed her this, and she's like, Debak! So I want to try this one.
I haven't had gopchang in a while. I gotta have it before I leave.
Oh, call me. Oh, this is nice. This has more of a aroma.
I feel like it's going to be spicier than the other one.
It's like a deep cheese meat. I'm the worst. It does. It has more. It smells like it has more oomph. Now, this is not a ridged chip. It does have a little pinkish.
Just a normal one.
Yeah, but you can tell there's some type of powdery stuff on it. Wow, that's intense. Okay.
Is it? I'm guessing it's spicier than the other one.
I haven't got the spice yet, but like a lot of Korean chips, sweet. Oh, yeah, I'm getting the spice now. This is a very thin chip too, and it's a lot of flavor in one chip. It's a punch you in the face flavor. Oh, this is good.
I'll have to keep my eye out for it. I'll keep my eye out for them. I like spicy chips.
It doesn't taste like intestines, really. It tastes like...
No, you don't get the gopchang?
It tastes like barbecued ribs. Oh my, this is amazing. This is excellent. Oh. It's so light. It's such a light texture. But... oh my. Yeah, it's spicy. That's actually a spicy chip that's spicy.
Your face is getting a little bit red there. I can see.
Wow. It's just, but it's addictive. This is delicious. Now this how I get. The downtowner ones are good. I would call that this This is a table chip. This is a snacking chip. This is anju chip. This is a drinking chip. This is a lunch.
Mm-hmm.
You eat these with your lunch.
Yeah, with your sandwich.
Yeah. This is what you're going to be like snacking on. You watch movies with these chips. Oh, dude, now I'm getting the heat. Oh, this.
Oh no!
This is amazing. Thank you, Brant, for bringing this to my attention.
I'm gonna have to keep a lookout. I don't think I've seen those, but I don't really get chips that often, so
I don't either. But I do usually for the show.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna have to go search them down, see if I can find them at one of the convenience stores near my place.
I have a ritual where I hit up the convenience stores when I get home on Fridays before the show. See what's new.
Pick up all your supplies.
Yeah, I gotta get my beers. Friday is the only day I drink. I drink on the show. By the way, I was listening to Dark Side of Soul podcast. And I think I overdid it. I think you and I did a podcast that day when we recorded it. This is Yu Young Cho part 2. I'm drunk in that episode. I am so embarrassed. I'm stumbling. We
got I don't know what it was, but because I was talking to my friend on the phone about that time, and apparently, like, I woke up the next morning and I had a cacao message from her boyfriend, and he was like, "Did you need something?" And I'm like, "Huh?" And apparently, I tried to call him, and I don't even know why. And my best friend was like, "Yeah, you told me you called him," and you were just like, "Oh yeah, I just tried to call him, but he didn't answer." She's like, "Okay." I'm like, I don't know. I guess like we were talking about something.
They were all
probably related to him, and I was like, I need to ask him a question. I don't know. I don't know.
I was embarrassed.
So
we're gonna watch it tonight. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Corona update. I think we peaked 2 weeks ago.
Maybe. Because like we're still at 18. We're in the 1800s today, but we did have one day over 2,000 this week.
Yeah, we did.
Not as many as last week.
I follow the chart kind of like I follow stocks. I do trend lines like you would stock market. And I'm like following this, and I'm like, oh look, we're in a bear market now. We might be in a bear market. We're hitting a peak. We're hitting a reversal now. But yeah, I'm seeing the averages, and what I don't get is the goldfish parakeet mentality of people in this is every Wednesday there's a spike. And it's not because Wednesday's some mystery day, it's because that's when they collect a lot of testing. They don't do as much testing on the weekends. And they actually will tell you, if you look deep in the numbers, they tell you how many tests they're doing. So Wednesday is when they get the most tests in. So you're going to get the most hits. You're going to get the most positives on that day. So every Wednesday there's a spike, and people are like, oh my God, we're going to die every Wednesday.
No, we've actually included, because we do daily reports on the numbers, and Monday and Tuesday, we always include like, the numbers are lower because fewer people get tested over the weekend.
Yeah.
And so that's why, we've explained it in articles. That's why you get that spike every Wednesday, because that's like the first day where you're getting people who are going in on like Monday and Tuesday to get tested.
Yeah. It's the hangover. It's the hangover score.
Mm-hmm. So Wednesday, it's always going to be Wednesday and Thursday, or typically Wednesday's the highest. Sometimes Thursday goes a little bit higher. And then Friday is usually,
no matter how much I explain
and it goes back, and it kind of evens out over the weekend. And then Monday it drops low again.
You get those easily startled parakeets. And I'm in one of the COVID-19 groups, and it's a really good group, but I'm so ornery. I guess it's because I run a good many Facebook groups. Too many. I shouldn't be doing that so much. And I run Restaurant by Soul, which is a mosh pit. I just don't like. I hate going into Facebook groups. You know, this is so sad. Is I don't even know what's happening on Restaurant Buzz until someone points it out to me. It's like, hey Joe, what's up with this post on Restaurant Buzz? I'm like, which post? Oh gosh. Oh
no. Oh, sorry.
Luckily, I have a really good team. The RBS admins, they're great. We actually have a separate group, a very private group for the RBS admins where we make fun of everyone that's in our Restaurant Buzz.
No. Oh man.
That's the most entertaining group. I remember it's been a while since we've gotten a new member in there, but we got one new member and she was like scrolling through all of our old conversations from like 2 or 3 years ago. They're like, oh my God, this is the most entertaining conversations.
I don't like being admin of a group. Like I would have to step in and do some stuff. No, I don't like it. I mean, I don't think I've ever really been like an admin of anything. Like I have admin, what's it? I can do admin stuff on the Groove page, but nobody really does anything on Groove.
No one's on the Groove page. I've been checking it lately. No one's there.
Yeah, because we haven't been doing articles. We're not dead yet. We're just we're trying to figure stuff out.
Okay.
We're trying to figure stuff out.
You're just pining for the fjords. Okay.
Yeah, it's trust me, as soon as I know what's going on, I'll let everybody else know. At the moment, I don't even know what's going on. I'm just trying to make sure that all of the articles for our next issue are done, even though I have no idea when it's going to come out. I will have them ready.
The Christmas issue.
It was supposed to be November. This issue that I'm working on was supposed to go out in November, and it just kept getting pushed back. And then we did, and then we did the International School Guide for March or April. That's what we do. We typically do it in March, but we had to do it in April. And then then we were going to go back to this one, and we need to get some monies to pay the printer so that we can print stuff.
And no one has money. And I know how much those things cost.
And nobody has money. Yeah, that's our issue. It's just, no one's a lot of the advertisers that we had, nobody's buying advertising anymore.
No, and they're not.
So it's just,
I wouldn't expect them to. And I wouldn't expect you guys to release an issue. I don't expect Sean to spend the money. And why would he want to lose money on an issue like that? No, I don't expect him to. You guys can still keep a presence somehow, but no.
Yeah, like we've had some weird stuff going on with the website the last few months. Like there was a couple weeks where Sean and I were even locked out of it and we couldn't figure out why. And then we got that figured. I don't know what it was.
And by the way, Sean is the owner of Groove.
Yeah, he's a publisher of Groove.
The publisher of Groove.
So I've been trying to talk to him. Like at the very least, we should be regularly updating the website. The problem is we had a team that did that, and they've all moved out of Korea because it's been so long since we had an issue that they just kind of like. And so now it's just the two of us, and we don't know how to do anything on the website because we had a team that we paid to do that.
Oh wow!
And so we're like, well. Crash course in learning how to do stuff. Like I know how to update. I know how to post stories and like the different sections, but I don't know how to like fix the front page so that featured stories and covered and then like leaking stuff up to different spots. I got to figure that out.
You're tempting me. Don't make me volunteer to help you. Please don't.
No, I'm not going to ask you to do it. I'm a big girl. I will figure it out myself. Most of the website, I actually figured out how to do it myself.
Good. So good. That's how I learned how to fix a car. No one taught me.
I can do this. I can do this.
All right. Let's start. We got a topic, that was an awful segue. We got a topic. That's okay. We got a topic. We're talking about this legislations being pushed through, tackling the fake news. Now, I would say fake news in Korea has been a problem in Korea since the dawn of news.
Mm-hmm.
From the beginning of the SeoulPodcat back in 2008.
Oh, well, that was like during the biggest issue. I think that's probably like the
biggest fake news came out, which was that American beef being imported into Korea was all infected with mad cow disease.
Mm-hmm.
And that prompted protests out in the streets. Even a mascot, Candle Girl, which is a cute little mascot logo. Anyway, it was a very confusing time. It was kind of embarrassing for Korea because they were using videos from PETA showing downer cows, which didn't have mad cow, but they were saying they had mad cow. The Korean reporters were saying it's like anyone who follows anything to do with food issues knows that video and knows that is not a mad cow. But of course, in the peninsula, people are not aware of bigger issues outside of the peninsula and will not catch that was not a video of a mad cow. But everyone believed it and everyone took to arms. And I mean, there have been the apologists. Seriously, there have always been the apologists that said the mad cow protests were not about mad cow. They were just anti-President Lee Myung-bak, which I can get that, but no, that wasn't the beginning of it. It kind of had that flavor to it, but that's extremely passive aggressive. It was people actually did believe American beef was infected with mad cow. There only been three animals in the U.S. that actually had it, and none of it was ever sent to Korea. And the practices that's required, what's required for American beef coming into Korea to prevent mad cow, Korean farmers didn't do at the time. So Korean Hanu beef had a greater chance of having mad cow disease than imported American beef. Yeah, no. So it was I think it was the last hurrah of really just mass xenophobia. And so that got me into this fake news and I would say the general unprofessionalism of the journalism profession in Korea. And that's been a comment I've seen with foreigners that are in the journalism industry. They've kind of pointed out that it's a shocking amount of unprofessionalism inside Korea. But anyway, what's your take on it? Because you actually work in journalism right now.
I do actually work in journalism. Well, like I was mentioning to you earlier, I was just kind of surprised the lack of discussion going on just amongst like none of my friends or colleagues at my current office or at any of my other old places or working at other places. Like we haven't been really talking about this, which kind of surprised me because I feel like something this big that we would be talking about it. Especially since a lot of the media organizations are against these revisions. And so basically what it is, it's the DP came up with this to try and reform the media.
It's the Democratic Party, that is in power right now.
Yeah, so they came up with these revisions as part of their plan to reform the media and to try and combat fake news. And what it is it just increases compensation that a court can reward to somebody that's facing damages from a false report, whether if it's like done intentionally or if it's just massive gross negligence.
Yeah, I can see how that can have a chilling effect. I can see that.
Yeah. So, the PPP is against it. A lot of these media organizations have been
The
and it's
International
only for
Union of Reporters is against it. I mean, international.
well, and apparent, yeah. Well, it's only for domestic media. It's not for international media. So
but
this
they're
law
against
only
it.
covers,
So it's just showing that they're saying this really goes against ethics of journalism ethics. Except I'm afraid that the international organizations that are criticizing this are not aware of the lack of ethics inside Korean journalism.
Mm-hmm. It's like I'm back and forth on it. Like, I do think there need to be some changes in journalism, in the journalism world. I'm not sure if this is the best way. I'm not sure if making laws, I don't know if making laws is the right way to try and go about reform.
It's using sledgehammers to kill mosquitoes.
Yeah, and I kind of feel it goes against the principles of a free press.
I agree with that.
You know, and Korea already has a pretty strict law on defamation. So
that already has a chilling effect.
Yeah, because, you know, defamation is not just like a civil court thing here. It's a criminal. It's a criminal offense. So not only could you get sued and have to pay like thousands or whatever, you know, dollars, you can also get put in jail for 2 years.
Korea is one of the only democracies where criminal libel's on the books.
Yeah. So my thought is kind of like you already have this, and the fact that even if what you report is true, you can still be found liable and you can still have to pay a fine and you could still possibly go to jail, even if everything that you've written is true and you have all the proof and evidence to back it up.
Yep.
Even if it's true, if it damages whoever it is you're writing about in some way, they can file a criminal complaint against you and take you to court and you could go to jail. And
I've been through that process.
I think one of the first time I heard of it,
I was actually interrogated in a police station for stuff on my blog. And the only reason, and then when I ended up facing the prosecutor, they said I was only partially guilty. And what my saving grace was that my blog was not that popular. Really, it wasn't the fact that it was true. They didn't say, "Oh, it was because it was true," and they just said that wasn't the factor. You know, but you know, you should.
The only factor was that like only 10 people read it.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't aimed at a Korean audience, so it didn't affect their business. Yeah, but it was all true what I wrote. And it was scary. It's really scary to get a notification in the mail asking you to go over to the police to be interrogated in a private room. I brought someone to interpret for me and they wouldn't allow him in. They had to use their interpreter whose English was about as good as my Korean.
Oh no.
Thankfully, the person, the official that was interrogating me spoke better English, so he was fine with it. And he was a good guy. He apologized for the whole situation. He felt that it was unfair that I was being targeted. Nonetheless, scary as hell to go through that. Really scary as hell. I've heard of it being used. I'm not sure if it actually progressed to a police case, but I have definitely heard of Hagwons threatening to file complaints with the police against former workers who were blogging about, you know. So I know, like, when I got into blogging in Korea many years ago, one of the big things that people were telling me and saying, like, don't ever use real names. Don't ever use the actual name of where you work. And you have to be as vague, you know, don't be too specific, because if, you know, what you're writing, if whoever you're writing about comes across this and it's enough that they know that it's them and that other people could figure out who it is, then you could be looking at not just a lawsuit, but you could be looking at, you know, criminal, like having, you know, a criminal offense. Yeah, but it's not, no one actually goes to jail for this.
I don't think I've ever heard of it actually being used, but I've definitely heard of it being threatened.
You can get fined.
Once there was one time. There's one time I did it. A blogger was sued by their former workplace, and they ended up having to pay because it was like this whole, like the Hagwon didn't pay them.
Yeah.
And so they were suing them to get the pay that they deserved, but then they were also blogging about it.
Yeah, me too.
And the company found out, and then so there were all these like countersuits going on at the end of it because they won their suit. So the Hagwon had to pay them. Yeah. But then the employee had to turn around and give half of it back because the Hagwon won their defamation suit against him.
That's sort of what happened to me. I had to give back around 10%, 15% of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was the one time I heard of it actually, but I've definitely heard of it threatened a lot. And so even on Facebook, people will talk about stuff and somebody else will pop up and be like, oh, don't use the actual name of anything.
Now, what you've said so far, I would say is cogent advice. On the other hand, do not depend on Facebook for legal advice. Now, I'm not a lawyer either. I'm just going to put that out there. But even the lawyers that were talking about me at my time, they got it wrong. In fact, when I was going through my brouhaha, and I was in the newspapers for my case. I was being consulted behind the curtain by one of Korea's top legal scholars. He was actually he wasn't taking on my case, but he was advising me behind the back because it's funny because one of the lawyers that was against me was saying that I was going to fail and stuff. He was quoting the same lawyer that was advising me. And I'm like, right. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Sure, guy.
Really know me. But
sure, dude.
There are some forums on Facebook where I know there's a really big one right now that a lot of expats go to, and and I'm not saying bad things about the forum because it's a friends forum and it's really fine, but a lot of times when people ask questions, people put on their I am an expert hat and start giving all this advice about something they have no experience in. And so don't listen to about the label thing. Every time there's so much panic. Honestly, you can basically say what you want. No one's going to really, they will threaten you. They really can't go after you. It's way so much hassle. The ones who go after you are the ones who are psycho and have a lot of time and money because it costs money for them to do this.
But yeah, like my thought is because Korea already has that law. Why do they need anything more? Why are these revisions so important that the DP has to basically shove it in? Yeah. And they've because the DP is fast tracked and shoved this through, and they were like, we want to get this passed by the end of August. Of course, they also said that last month and the month before that. They're like, oh, we want to pass this by the end of June. Oh, we want to pass this by the end of July. So these revisions, they're not actually brand new. I was looking at articles, and there are articles dated all the way back to last year talking about these revisions and how, the DP really wants to reform journalism and try and cut down on fake news.
Now, do you know, was there a specific incident that sparked this? Because it kind of was that side of the aisle that was behind the mad cow brouhaha.
I'm trying to remember. I know, it's hold on. Let me go to my notes.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I'm guessing it might be COVID related. And seeing what happened in America and what's happening, we're scared that Russia and China and big evil Japan are messing up with our news, and North Korea is messing with our news.
Yeah. So like the mad cow, I think, was probably the biggest one. But oh, good Lord, what was it?
But mad.
It wasn't.
How about Sewol?
It was after Sewol was. Oh yeah, that was one. That was. Yeah, and the government was not helping out with that one because all the reports that went out in the morning saying, "Oh, everybody's been rescued," a lot of that came from the government. The government, they were the ones saying the Coast Guard. They were like,
that's because President Park Geun-hye was busy getting her hair done and shooting up with drugs in her office.
Oh yeah, having
you could say it was a conspiracy theory, but it actually came out in the trial. Read Ask a Korean has a really good detail account of everything.
I'll have to look in that. Yeah,
he went through all the conspiracy theories and he categorized which ones were surprisingly true. And I was like, no, because I was reading that and like, this is so far fetched. This is so far fetched. And then I go, oh, they actually found out that was true. Oh my God.
Okay, so we had the US beef riots, Park Geun-hye trying to shut down disinformation after Sewol.
Yeah.
The NIS getting involved online with Park's image.
Big NIS is this like the intelligence agency, the Korean CIA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My notes. Oh, Eva, I gotta get better. It was like the orgy dude.
The orgy dude.
The vice foreign minister who was put on trial, who was facing charges for taking sexual favors and being at orgies or something. I think he ended up not being, I think he was acquitted. But then there was a huge thing because that's ongoing now, because the prosecution fabricated some documents to put a travel ban on him.
That's not fake news. I mean, that's not a newspaper, though. Oh gosh.
Yeah. And then COVID-19, all the stuff that was coming out, like when the pandemic first hit,
and still going.
So again, and still going. Yeah. Because so they just really want to crack down on fake news, and fake news is not just like a Korea thing. I think it's a worldwide thing, and
it is. But anytime people says, "Oh, it happens in other places too," I'm like, "Yeah, but multiply it by 10, and that's Korea."
It's Korea, and then like YouTube is one of the biggest platforms for fake news, but yet, I don't think they're affected by the provisions.
Mm-hmm. We're full of rumor mongering. I've noticed that information comes here with a buffer. It always seems like information about health and medicine tends to hit the Korea sphere like 3 years after it's already hit America. It's like I'm hearing stuff now that we already knew like 3 to 5 years ago, and now it's new news here. So it always feels like kind of behind. It's like maybe it takes 3 years to translate into Korean medical documents. Yeah. I don't know. One thing, another example, like how there's such a delay, is the big trend right now is the personality test called 16 personalities. Where everyone,
Myers-Briggs?
No, not Myers-Briggs. Well, it's similar. But it's this one where you get a cute little character based on one of your 16 personalities. Oh, I'm an INFJ. Ooh, I'm things like that. And so it's the newest form. What I am. It's the newest form of blood type. It's the newest form it's the newest form of putting people into categories to make things easier to prejudge them. It's the big hit now. It's a big thing now. The thing was, it was a big thing on the English-speaking internet over a year ago. And I was doing it. I was having fun. It's a fun little distraction. I wasn't taking that seriously, but it's a fun little distraction. Went up to my wife and daughter and I said, "Hey, you guys should try this site. what your profile is. And they were like, what? Oh, no, I don't want to do it. And then suddenly, like last week, they're doing it and like, hey, Dad, you got to check this out. I'm like, this is the very same thing I told you about a year ago.
I tried to get you to do last year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Found out my daughter and I are pretty much exactly the same. Kind of weird.
Another one was during the presidential elections. Mm-hmm. In 2017, there was a lot of stuff going around in the news. So PPP is threatening, they're going to do a filibuster and the media organizations are against it. And the DP is like, well, tough cookies. We have a super majority. But we're going to have a meeting. We're going to have a party meeting before the plenary session because, maybe we should think about this, but I think it's really just lip service, but
it is.
And they keep
going to go through, but it's going to get struck down later.
Yeah. Well, and they keep coming through with it. Like, cause part of the law is that major corporations and the government, they cannot push for damages. So they're like, it's okay because we can't use this law and major corporations can't use this. This is just for normal everyday people who are hurt by fake news.
The spirit of it, I agree with, but it just feels so janky. Mm-hmm. We got to do something about it.
Just kind of like, yeah, I feel like there's probably there's going to be loopholes. And
what can we do about this?
Some of the people.
What can we do about the general unprofessionalism of the thing? First thing is we need to name out the symptoms. What are the things? Like one thing is paying your interviewees. I've never heard of that. In fact, when I'm working with foreign media companies coming here and they want to interview or put people on camera, the people are always expecting to be paid, and we're like, that's not ethical. CNN says that's not ethical. We don't do that. You don't pay the person you interview because that taints what they say. But Korea does this. The Today Show. It's a practice, and they will actually give you a script of what your answers should be. And that's unethical.
It's also in the reverse. They do sponsored. News organizations will get paid by companies to write sponsored articles, and they don't always mark that they're sponsored.
They don't disclose it. And see, that's what I think should come out is more disclosure.
Yeah. That was a big issue that I had with I don't think we don't do it where I work now because it's impossible basically. But definitely when I was at the Herald and Yudap, we would have, especially for the business section, we would have sponsored articles and I would get it and I'd start looking at it and I'm like, there's so much editorializing in here. I'm like, this is not a news article. And they're like, oh, right. Sorry, it's a sponsored article. And I'm like, oh. They're like, yeah, they paid us to write this. It's like basically a product review or a review of some service or whatever. And I was like, okay, so is this going to be like, so is this going to be marked? And they're like, no, we don't typically mark them. And I'm like, okay.
So that's an ethical thing.
Your credibility just went like this much down in my eyes, but
yeah. What's funny is that there's a law that bloggers have to disclose that.
Yeah, bloggers have to disclose when they're getting, when they're getting paid to write something, or is it also if they're not just getting paid, but in kind?
Any freebies you get. Yeah,
but newspapers don't. Newspapers don't. That kind of complete. And I think definitely when I was at Arirang, not so much at Herald and Yunup, but a lot at Arirang. There was like a lot of editorializing in articles. There's a lot of plagiarism in articles.
That's a propaganda.
Literally
That's not news. That's propaganda.
No, but even sometimes at the Herald and sometimes at Yunup, we would come across I would come across, like a small paragraph that was just lifted from like AP or whatever. Again, Yunup, I had less issues with this at Yunup because Yunup is kind of like the highest tier in a lot of, I think in Korean and English media, definitely in English media.
It's the closest we have to
Yunup is
to AP and Reuters in Korea.
Right. And so just for that fact alone, I felt like the quality of writing, the quality of reporters that we were dealing with was a much higher level. So these were not big issues that I dealt with a lot. Like maybe they popped up here and there. But I mean, most of my issues at Yunup were the management. It was not the reporters. The reporters were great. A little more at Herald. Again, not nearly as bad as Arirang, but again, Arirang is like basically a propaganda media outlet. So
from the start, that's how it was founded, was propaganda. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely it was the worst there. But I would say we're like, Arirang, Herald, and then Yunup in terms of that. But I would agree with that.
No.
Yeah. And I was just really surprised by how blasé people were about plagiarizing. I would say like, you just copy and pasted this whole paragraph from Wikipedia.
No one teaches anyone that it's wrong, and they're not even aware that it's wrong.
And they're like, oh,
it's so deep.
Yeah. They were like, is that wrong? And I'm like, yeah, you would get fired.
Yeah.
For this.
And this isn't foreigners bitching about Korea. This is like something Koreans have gone up to me and said, this is a big problem we have, is this copy culture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's just because it just kind of starts from the very beginning. And so I think you need, in order to change that, you have to overhaul the entire, go all the way down into school, definitely at the university level.
Yeah.
You have to go to the school level and start there. And it's not just even in me, because I've heard, from some of our friends that are professors at universities, they say they have issues with plagiarism all the time.
Yeah.
But I was just really shocked by that. Editorializing something that's very clearly a news article. I'm like, I would go and I was like, oh, you're missing an attribution. And they're like, what? And I'm like, this sentence here, who said this? They're like, oh, no one said it. And I'm like, so like none of your sources said this.
What is most entertaining?
And they're like, no. And I'm like, so this is your opinion? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, you can't put that in here. Like everything in this is a news article. Everything in here has to be attributed to someone.
Yeah.
It was just like, again, I faced this the most at Arirang. It wasn't as big an issue with Herald and Yunup, though. I mean, again, occasionally, and it was usually the cub reporters, the people who were just starting out, because apparently this is not stuff that's taught in journalism school, I don't know what they teach either. It was either that, or you get a lot of people who major in something else and then decide, I want to be a reporter. And so they just, get a job at a newspaper with never going to journalism school. And the way that it's set up, because when you start at like Sewol, entry level, what happens is your first 6 months at a media organization, whether it's a newspaper, if it's Yunup, whatever, your first 6 months is training. You're not writing articles. You're just, for the first 3 months, they send you to live at a police station, So you basically live at a police station and you have to report all the potential stories back. And I'm like, what's the purpose of this?
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, news organizations I worked at, they always had the police scanner next to them to keep track of what's going on.
Right, right. But I mean, they didn't really give them context. They were just like, I think that was like supposed to teach them how to find stories. I don't know.
No,
but again, this is something that I did in journalism school. That's where I learned how to do public record searches, what places to go to find, marriage license or voter registration, or, what information you could get, like that's publicly available information, where to find it, how to go about reading a police blotter. All of this is stuff that we learned in journalism school and undergrad. And these are people who are graduates. They have journalism degree. Well, most of them have journalism degrees. Some of them have a degree, but they don't know any of this. And they're also being taught how to write articles. And I'm just like, what is it that you learn in journalism school? And I mean, I don't know if every journalism department is like this, because I've only spoken to a few people. So I honestly don't know. But I mean, some people that I've talked to, it's like, oh, well, it's just like a lot of like studying, reading books, taking tests. Like, so what about school newspapers? Do you have like at least like a university newspaper? And I think, and they do. And I think, and again, these are from people around my age. So it could, I don't know, it's very well could have changed. It could have just been certain universities. I don't want to say like this is every single journalism program. And a lot of the people that I work with have actually studied abroad. They went to university in Canada or the US.
You can assume it. Really just the next step.
So a majority of people that I work with, they have journalism degrees from universities in the US and Canada. And so even they were not like completely, even though they're Korean, they're like, I honestly don't really know what journalism programs are like in Korea, because I went in the States. So couldn't tell you. And like the few people that I did talk to about it were like, yeah, it's more like a theoretical study of journalism. Like, journalism is probably the most practical major you could find.
You're always practicing.
And it's and you have to do that. It's very hands-on. I mean, my professor, again, he didn't use an ABC scale. It was publishable, not publishable.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I graduated from music school and I read about how to play piano, but I've never played a piano.
So, but I mean, it's very obvious that there are things that need to change. And I think a good place to start is reforming journalism programs at universities. Teach people not to plagiarize.
There's not much motivation there to do that, unless, I mean, the government could actually tackle that.
Yeah, that is something I feel that would fall within the realm of the government. I don't think punishing journalists is a good way to go about reforming the media.
No, it's like what you see at the. It's like what you see at. I see this at my subway station, which is an outdoor subway station during the rainy season. Is they have giant trash cans to catch the leaks from the rain, rather than going up to actually fix where the freaking leak is coming from. Every year, it's just in the same place. There's always a leak in the same place. Like no one's bothered going up there to fix a darn hole in the roof, wherever that's coming from. But we're just going to sit on this side at the very end and we're catch the leak, but we're not going to deal with it at the root.
Right. And well, I mean, it wasn't all too long ago that I think Korea had the level of freedom of the press that they do now.
True.
So in a way, I mean, I think it's just like, maybe playing catch up. Yeah, we're from the States.
And we're
from the States.
We're not bastions of great journalism either. We have our issues as well.
No, we're definitely not. Yeah, no, definitely not. But I mean, we had things like Watergate and, the Washington Post publishing all those papers on the Vietnam War and stuff like that. But that was like back in, we've had this kind of like long sort of legacy of great journalistic moments. And Korea didn't, during that time, Korea was under a dictatorship.
Yeah.
They'd just gotten out of a war. They're rebuilding. So in a way, it would make sense that the media landscape is kind of catching up in a sense with a lot of these sort of media ideas.
Just a concept of ethics. Just a concept. America, they're taught ethics. They just many times
whether or not they choose to follow them is the story.
Yeah,
yeah. But we're definitely
aware. It really was for people from one of my old Korean colleague. When she was talking about telling her colleagues that like you should be copying the stuff, and they were just unaware that it was wrong. They really were not aware that it was wrong. That's where you start. When they found out it was wrong, they stopped.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing I will say. Like, I did, like, once I pointed it out to a reporter, I'm like, you can't do this. They're like, why not? And I'm like, well, first of all, you copy and pasted from the Wall Street Journal. I'm pretty sure if they found out about this, they would not, we would be in so much trouble because they are so much bigger than us and they have so much more money than us. And second of all, like if we were in America and you did this, you would be fired and you would not be able to work in journalism again. Like, that's how serious it is. They're like, oh, okay. Like, yes. Okay. Attribute everything. Okay.
It is someone else's
always
work.
Have an attribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always attribute. And, and it also saves our ass too, because if somebody says something controversial, be like, hey, we didn't say it. They said it.
Yeah. Don't kill a messenger.
And of course, like this idea of like anonymous sources, though I guess worldwide that's become more the norm. But I don't know. I'm not sure. Cause I know when I was like, my professor was just like, he hated anonymous sources. He's like, don't use anonymous sources unless it's absolutely necessary. Always try to have a name.
I agree with that,
because it makes it more credible if you use an actual name.
Yeah.
But I mean, but then I noticed, like, even in America with articles, you still get like, well, government sources, da 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 da.
Well, I mean, if it's
like, okay,
security,
so maybe this is not just
a
great.
Yeah, if you're reading The Hill is a really fun read, and it's always anonymous sources, inside sources. Or you're reading Entertainment Mag about some secretive film under production, or anything Silicon Valley about any new software or anything going on. It's always an anonymous sources inside, but they'll try to back it up by saying, well, this source has been right about this and this and this in the past, and this is how they have their credibility. So they do come up with ways to show how that person is credible.
Right. I felt like a lot of times over here, it was just like, why is this person anonymous? There wasn't any sort of real reason for why they were anonymous. I'm like, are they going to get fired if we put their name? They're like, no, it's just common practice. That's what you do.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Saving face.
Yeah.
That said, there are, it's funny because the journalists I would suggest, and this is wrong though. No, we know a lot of journalists. I mean, but it seems like the journalists that tend to have the more ethics tend to write for non-Korean publications. The biggest one, the one that every international journalist respects, is Chae Sang-hun of the New York Times. He's E.F. Hutton. it's like when he speaks, everyone listens. I finally met my hero in person. He is so humble. He is so surprised by the adoration people have for him. He's not even aware of it.
Really?
Yeah, but his articles are so biting and concise, and they're so
I'm surprised. I know the name. I don't think I've read a lot of. I'm gonna have to.
Any article about
that. I mean,
South
I do have
Korea,
a New York Times subscription.
Yeah, most any article about South Korea.
Go straight to him.
Yeah, in New York Times. He cuts through a lot of the BS. You can tell he does his research. He does back everything up. He does. They do. But working for those publications, because I have written for the Wall Street Journal, and they are fact checked monkeys. They're
yes,
with that shit.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Well, and I will say, when I was working, when I worked at the Herald, there was a group of really, really good women that I just adored. All of us ended up being on the entertainment desk together for a few months before they got switched over. And so we always had fun hanging out there. But then they got moved over to the Gen News desks, and it was just like they found their thing. They started writing about social issues, specifically women's rights issues, and really got into it after I left, after I'd moved over to after I left the Herald, because one of them was actually an intern on the digital media desk writing silly little K-pop articles that were like 3 paragraphs long. But I don't mean they were silly because they were K-pop. It was like, oh, so-and-so is rumored to be dating so-and-so, that sort of thing. That's why they were silly.
Gossip. It was gossip.
But that's where so that's where she started. But then after I left, we kept in touch, and she eventually got offered she started as an intern, and she got offered a full-time job there. And then she was the one writing all of the Adri Matner articles, talking about how the police completely botched the investigation, and how following the lawsuit against the police and everything. And I was so proud of her, because I remember editing her articles when she first started writing.
That's awesome.
And then looking at what she was writing then, it was good. This girl, she was a journalist. She is a journalist. She's still working there. Or no, she's actually leaving. She's about to go do a grad program, I think, in London or something. But
good on her.
And her name's Letitia Oak, and she was just amazing. The other one that I loved was Claire Lee, and she's now working at AFP.
Okay.
So brilliant reporters from the Korea Herald. But if you go back and look at a lot of especially their social issue articles that they wrote, really good, so much research, so many interviews, really kind of dug in, doing some good sort of almost investigative work. And I was just I feel so honored that I got to edit your articles.
That's amazing. It's kind of funny that you get some really good journalists at those newspapers, Korea Herald and Korea Times, even though their reputation is not so great. But it's kind of funny that the reporters have way more ethics and talent than the editors do, than their bosses do.
Yeah. When I was on the culture desk at Herald, my boss was amazing. Mrs. Kim was just awesome. Good. And she let me have free reign with the articles that I wrote, with the series. She loved the ideas that I had for series. So she was just go with it. But she would also sit me down and be like, okay, what you're doing is really great. The articles you've done so far are really great, but have you thought about maybe adding this in? And she was a really good sort of mentor, which I needed, because at that point it had been a while. I'd been out of the game a little bit when it came to writing and reporting. And so it was great to kind of have that. And I didn't really get a lot of the learning curve, because I worked at a newspaper for 4 months right out of college, came to Korea, taught English for a year, did PR for 6 months, unemployed for 3 months, and then went into copy editing for like 2 years. So it was the first time that I was getting back into reporting after like 3 or 4 years. And I didn't really have that learn all the things that I needed to learn when I should have learned them. And so she was a great mentor and really helped me. So she was great. I think at YunUp, I didn't really have any issues with the desk editor. There was one desk editor in particular that we all had massive issues with. Uh-oh. And then he got promoted to we were trying to get him demoted because he should not have been in charge of any desk, especially an English language desk. And that backfired, and he ended up taking over the entire floor.
That's what happens, is you got incompetence to get you promoted up.
But then
that's how Fool's Die became the editor of the Korea Times.
And then, but it only lasted about 6 months. And then there was this whole, like, the reporters launched a coup and they actually got him demoted. Like, they got him like really demoted. He was demoted to photo caption writer.
Oh, geez.
It was just like almost, I feel like it was like a year-long ordeal. And it really brought us all together, the copy editors and the reporters. We were all in it together. It was, yeah.
You were bathing in the glow of Schadenfreude.
Yeah, we were just like, we wanted to throw computers out the window pretty much on a daily basis. But, you know, we kind of, because we had like an in-house messenger that we would use to keep in touch with because the reporters were in and out. They were hardly ever there. Yeah. So it was just like to keep in touch with everybody because they were here there. But we would just sit there and have like we had group chats. So we would have like group conversations about the situation. I mean, one of the copy editors and actually a woman who was our boss for a bit, she was our superior, Mrs. Lee. We were in a group chat together and we had like a running joke about, today's the day. Today we're going to picket. And we would come up with like our picket sign slogans. That was how we got through that's how we got through it. We made jokes about what our picket signs were going to say in front of YunUp.
That's great.
I can't remember them, but some of them were pretty funny. I think I had a few good ones. I had some zingers in there. I just wish I could remember what they were.
Oh, that sucks.
I know. There were a couple that like I came up with them and I sent them in the group chat, and then suddenly I heard it from across the room, and I'm like,
that's great.
Yes, I made her laugh out loud because it was so quiet in that office. Like that's why we text, even if we were sitting next to each other, we didn't talk. We messaged because it was just so quiet.
Good on you guys.
Which was so weird for me.
No, it's opposite of my office. We talk so much, I get no work done.
Oh, that's my office now. We are just all very chatty, and but we don't overdo it. Like
I really block everyone out, and they still don't get it that when I'm zoning, when I'm in the zone, I can't be interrupted, and still, Anyway, I shouldn't be bitching.
Yeah, we don't overdo it. It's just like for maybe like a couple minutes, we'll like all talk about something, and then we're immediately back into work, but. You know, but yeah, working in media in Korea, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap things up because my back is telling me it's time to wrap things up.
Yeah. I'm like, my body's
no. I know it happens. So anyway, thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe to us on we are actually a podcast, not just on video. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/SeoulPodcast where you can get all back issues of the show dating back to 2008 if you're really interested in that. And we're also on social media at facebook.com/SeoulPodcast and on Twitter at King Sejong, who is our announcer. And all right. Please, we try to do a show every Friday or every other Friday around 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the evening. Next week, we're planning to. I'm so scared to tease guests because
I know, because you never know if it's like sometimes we jinx it. We didn't jinx ourselves with Jiho. We said Jiho and then he actually did come on.
He did come on. We have and
that was last minute on my part because I was like, we don't have to do it today because it's last minute, and he was like, nope, I can do it tonight. And I'm like, yes.
Well, next week we're going to have Clara Soazandri, who is a good example of someone who came here to teach English and found success, is finding success doing something outside of that in Korea, which I'm using this as a inspiration to show that if you're here as an English teacher, there are ways to do something else and be successful at it. She started this magazine about NFTs, which are these, you could say they're like ways you can sell digital art online as auctions. That's the big thing right now. And she's focusing on NFTs for children, and it's actually doing quite well. It has nothing to do with Korea, but she's actually getting a name for herself, and she's getting quite successful in a very rapid amount of time. And so we're going to have her on the show hopefully next week, and she's going to tell us about her inspirations and how she was able to get some success outside of the Hagwon. So I'm wanting people to, I want you to listen to this. I want you to get some inspiration, get some ambition in you. And,
if you don't already have it, I know people.
There are lots of people.
I do hang around a lot of cool people though. So
you hang out with good people, but there are ways to do things here and be successful. So listen next week. All right, everyone, please, until next time, be safe.
Bye.
The Sewol Podcast is a production of Zenkinchi International, copyright 2021, under the Creative Commons license. Parts of this podcast may be used for non-commercial purposes if you remember to give us credit. You can contact us at sejong@SeoulPodcast.com. That's SEJONG@SeoulPodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter @King Sejong and on Facebook at Facebook.com/SeoulPodcast. For a transcript of this episode, listen to it again and write down what you hear. See you next week. Until then, may your barber always have only one barber pole.